and thank you for pressing play. Welcome to A Beer with Bear or Any Other Beverage. This is episode 84 with Rawl Paredes, also known as Raw. Raw is a photographer, videographer, indie filmmaker, and podcaster. I had the pleasure of speaking with Raw remotely this past fall. We discussed some mutual friends, how he transitioned from a 9-to-5 job to creating content and photography full-time, and his taste in horror movies and music. He is making his mark on the horror community with his podcast show, Raw of the Dead, spooky photography, and what he calls a photographic experience that he provides at horror conventions and other events. Raw is an all-around cool guy, and I'll have links to his podcast and social media in the episode description. Go give him a follow. Beer with Bear is available to listen to where podcasts are heard. Spotify, iTunes, just to name a few, Libsyn, and SoundCloud.com. If you like what you hear, please support the show and the artists to come on by hitting subscribe, leave a rating, write a positive review, and tell your friends. While you're at it, don't forget to like us on Facebook at Beer with Bear Pod, Twitter at Beer with Bear, and Instagram at Beer with Bear Podcast. That's right, due to some technical issues, we are no longer using the Beer with Bear Pod handle. The account's still up, but you want to follow us at Beer with Bear Podcast. There with the other socials, you'll find pictures, updates for upcoming episodes, and it's also the best way to contact us. We'd love to hear from you. Theme music by Chris Helking, graphic design by Jeremy Fletcher, mixing and post-production by Ryan Miles. Thank you very much and enjoy. Okay, there it goes. Do you see the startup recording thing?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what I was going to say is I let the guests know now that I'm recording because when I first started, I was inspired by like the Nerdist and like Joe Rogan and a lot of those podcasts. And what they would do is, especially the Nerdist, is they would start recording without telling the artist to get that kind of natural feel. You know, there's always that incident where they're going, "Oh, are we recording now?" And
yeah,
then,
I did this. I do the same thing on my podcast, except for maybe like a couple episodes. I kind of let them know we're going to do a little intro. But I like having it a natural progression conversation where we're already deep into the conversation. I hit record, so that way we're kind of comfortable going into the whole thing. You know?
yeah. No, I agree. It definitely makes a difference. It's just the only problem was that there was more than one time in particular where the guest didn't know we're recording, and they started saying things they don't want to say, and then it's, wait, we're recording? Oh my God, you're gonna, and it becomes an issue. So it happened more than once. So I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this long enough to where I'm kind of comfortable to where I can actually get to that point where it's more natural. You know, usually it takes about 10 to 15 minutes once you get the guest kind of loose, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's
it helps that I have alcohol in my podcast typically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but in the early days, that was definitely a tactic, you know, that I would use, and I took from other podcasters because that's what I was inspired by. Okay, these guys do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think I started doing that naturally just because we were already having a conversation, kind of like the way me and you were having a conversation just about the gear, the equipment.
Yeah.
And then usually I'll just like, oh, by the way, let me just do a quick intro, and then I'll introduce the guest or whatever, and let them know we're recording already. And then if they don't want that first part on there, they'll usually let me know. But I've had very little guests tell me to edit stuff out. You know what I mean? Because I keep the podcast light. You know?
Yeah. No, I was going to actually compliment you on your podcast because I first discovered you when you had Veronica Vera, Eye Candy. Because what's it called? Because I had her on too not too long ago, and I saw that she did a show with you. And she's a friend of mine and stuff. And I heard the episode. I'm like, this is pretty legit. And then once we were talking, I remember we were talking about equipment just on what's it called on DMs and stuff and everything. And followed your page, of course. One thing that stood out was the aesthetic of your page. Looked really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome. She was a great guest.
Oh no, she's great. She's great, and luckily, I'd known her for so long. It was like a reunion because I haven't seen her in like over 10 years or something. So, but going back to what I was saying was, I like your podcast because you really really good at listening to the guest. And I find myself at times, even though I've done quite a few of these, and I'm a little more manic, a little bit more. So sometimes I'll talk before I should, or I'll get excited about something they say and I jump in and it kind of muddies things up. And I got to tell myself, I got to take that part out where I talk over him, please.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I catch myself like wanting to say something or make a side note, but then I get distracted. So I'm trying not to get distracted either. I'm trying to like listen and find things that I can follow up on during that conversation, or even
Yeah.
in whatever they're talking about. We can like go to different avenues and stuff that I don't have notes on, because I usually don't have questions. I have like notes of things I want to like bring up, but I don't necessarily have questions. Like most
Mm.
podcasters, which is fine. They do the interview thing. You know what I mean? Where it's cool too. I like that type of podcast too. But I like the natural progression of listening to podcasts where they're just having a conversation. Like Michael Rosenbaum,
Yeah.
he is such a good podcaster. He brings things out of the guests that are so natural, and they're almost like we're just listening on a conversation with both of them. And that's how I want to like have my podcast as well. Just progress to whatever we're talking about. You know what I mean? Not hit certain questions and make it like a normal interview.
Well, that's when you know you have a good guest, when you're able to have that flow where you don't need your questions. Like I have questions and notes like
Yeah.
yourself that I'll put just kind of in case I have nowhere to go. Like there's some guests I'll have where they give you one word answers, or where you have to kind of rely on all your questions and stuff. And then you have the
Yeah.
ones kind of like right now that I haven't even looked at my notes yet and we're doing just fine, to where
Yeah.
it's you got to be able to adapt, and I've had some instances where I fucking buckled, then I had some where I was like, oh my god, that was the easiest one I ever did.
No, yeah. I think I definitely like having guests that definitely talk a lot, and they always apologize. Like, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. I go, no, that's great. That's what I want. I want you to talk about what you're feeling and your experience of whatever it is. I don't want you to think you have to edit yourself out or anything. It has to be natural. It has to be natural. So, and I like to make everybody comfortable to it, to where we're just like not even ignoring that there's a camera here and there's another camera and there's lights and everything. We want to be like settled in, talk a little bit before the podcast starts, and then naturally just go into it. I know now it's a little bit harder because I do have the cameras now. I do the YouTube video podcast as well, which is something I didn't do the first year. I think I might have done one or two of them, but after I did the first video, I was like, I'm going to get away from the video because I want my guests to be really comfortable. So that way I can do phone interviews. We can do it in live if we want to. And they can be comfortable. They can be in their PJs. They can be, they don't have to get all made up or anything. And they feel a lot better and safer. Like, okay, well, there's no camera, so I can just talk. So the first year I kind of did that. And then once we went into the Blackcraft network started, and they wanted to put my podcast on there. And I told them, okay, that's fine. I wanted, I'll give you guys the content. So we were trying to work out something where maybe it's exclusive to you guys. You get early releases. And then in a month, my podcast will be released on Spotify the way I normally have it. But I told them, since they were doing the what's it called, the Patreon page, I go, well, what can we provide that's different that I don't provide now?
Video.
So I did the video for them, and I kind of just stuck to it now, where like I'm kind of enjoying doing the video portion of it, because I think it just gives. Most podcasts now do have video that you can find on YouTube. So I eventually did want to get there anyway. So now I'm there now, and now I'm just keeping it going. But I'm keeping it going at my own pace. Whereas like on the Blackcraft Network, I was like working like 15-hour days just to get my episode done, edited, do promos for it, do Instagram Reels for it, upload, and move on to the next guest, and then do the same thing, repeat. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks where I was just like, this is like a full-time job. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Oh no, I do
um,
know what you mean. I think the only reason
yeah,
my show's been able to survive for so long is because I take long breaks. But that hurts your
yeah,
numbers.
yeah. I don't try to do too much long breaks, but I try to do at least 6 episodes at a time. 5 to 6 episodes. If there's more, there's more. Sometimes you'll have guests cancel on me, and that's fine too. So, but I'm trying to hit the number between 6 and 7 podcasts, and then I take a small break. But during that break is when I'm doing more podcasts. So right now, starting in November, I'll be ramping up to do more guests for the next couple of months.
Are you doing it once a week, bi-weekly? Like, what's your main goal? Because mine is bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks. I don't always hit it. I don't hit it a lot of the time, but right
Yeah,
now I'm really pushing for that because I think
I
that's
do
doable.
every Monday. So every Monday there's a new episode. So I'm
Mm.
trying to be consistent with that. So like right now we got one more episode coming out Monday. After that, I'm gonna take a break and probably come back in December, or maybe even probably December, mid-December. I don't think I want to wait till January, but
Mm.
um,
You have a back,
I
and
just want to have
all the ones you recorded, that was your back catalog, is what you're saying too.
yeah. So these are all recorded from September. So all the ones
Oh,
that I've
okay.
just recorded in September are coming out right now. So last Monday was Blessed by Lilith with the hats.
Oh yeah, I
Before that,
heard that one.
we had Criaturas,
Oh,
fanzine.
that's the zine, right? The
Yeah,
magazine one. That
yeah.
was a
And
good
then
one
we had
too.
then I had other guests before that, and that was all like we shot that all in September. So there was a point where I did 3 guests in 1 week. So that's where I was like, this is getting overwhelming. Like,
Well,
but these were
like
all
you
going to be
said, to jump
yeah,
in.
these were all
I
going
know
to
you're
be
going to go.
chopped
I don't
off.
mean to
So
jump in, but people who are listening and watching got to realize when you do these 3 guests, you're doing the audio, you're doing the video, you're doing the what's it called, the editing. For both of them,
yeah,
you got to edit the video, you got to edit the audio, you got to put it in seamlessly like you do. Great shots. Then you got the
yep.
social media. Then you got the I don't know if you do graphic design for your episodes too as well.
I don't, but I should.
Yeah. So that takes a lot of freaking time,
Yeah,
especially for people who say if you work a day job or you have your photography stuff. Like I said, I
yeah.
just want to bring in the fact that 3 episodes and you said a week.
I shot 3 in a week in September, and those are all dropping right now. Like, and some I did in the morning, some I did at night. It just depends on people's schedule because they usually come to my apartment. We sit back here on this couch and record the episodes because it's just easier to do it in my apartment. At first, I didn't really want to use my apartment, but I can't afford to do a studio or go somewhere and do a studio. So I'm gonna have to try to just do whatever I can here and just light it correctly. And me being a one-man band, I also noticed some of the episodes, if you watch my YouTube channel, they're out of focus on my face because I can't monitor myself when I'm talking to the guests. And I don't notice that it's focusing on the microphone that might be right here. And then it's just focusing on that. And like, I have the microphone like sort of right here, but it'll just focus on that. And I didn't notice it, you know what I mean? Because I hit record and let's just go. And then when I see it on post, I'm like, oh my God, I'm out of focus the whole time. So because I'm running the whole show. I don't have somebody like
Yeah.
monitoring that for me. Hopefully, I can get somebody to help me one of these days, But I understand everyone's got their schedule and it's hard to get 2 people on the same schedule, much less 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, I have 2 other people that do the show with me. I couldn't. One of them might show up later. The other one, I just can't make it. So I'm like, because I
Yeah.
switched the day for him for Saturdays because we used to always do them Sundays. That was like our thing for I don't know for years, and unless of course it's an on location one where you go to the artist like wherever they're at. But then his job schedule started working Sundays, and he did the camera stuff. So if we did in person, I really want the camera because, like you mentioned earlier too, all the shows are doing it. And then for social media, it's essential
Yeah.
to not have video, like clean, crisp video, or it's makes a big difference. Like, those things those always pick up better on social media than say just the icon. We'll put all this time into the icon, like, oh, it looks
Yeah.
great, but then you throw the fucking 10-second like whatever video you did, all of a sudden, thousands and thousands of fucking views on it. Like,
No, yeah, that's true. That's why I kind of started going back to the video format because then you can like put Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels. I mean TikTok, not Reels, but Instagram Reels, stories, and
Yeah.
then I could promote it. So now what I do is I try to promote it every single day, not just when it's released. Every single day I'll try to put some type of different audio or a video, or just let you know, hey, here's the link for Spotify, or here's the link for Buzzsprout, here's a link for YouTube. So I promote it throughout the whole week now. Whereas before I just drop it on Monday, promote it that Monday, and then that's it. That's all I would do.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to get back into just keeping on it, because I know my numbers have been down since I went to the Blackcraft Network. I think people got
Um,
confused.
I'm gonna stop you 1 second. So you mentioned the
Yeah.
Black Craft Network. That's the second time. Black Craft Network. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what exactly is a Black Craft Network? Because I'll tell you right, I got a little confused myself.
Oh, okay, no worries. So Blackcraft is the brand. If you've heard of it, they do the gothic apparel, shirts. They do joggers, hats. They have a store in Anaheim. They have a store in Salem. But the owner does a lot of entrepreneurship stuff, and he delves into a lot of stuff. So he started doing a podcast under the Blackcraft name, and then he decided to do something called the Blackcraft Network, which is a lot of shows, like sort of like a channel. So it's like a TV
Yeah.
channel. It has a lot of shows in it and a lot of content.
Are they all podcasts too, or they vary?
They're all
They
podcasts.
vary.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, they're all of them are different types of podcasts. Some are like they interview like rock stars. So everybody had a different style of podcasting, and mine was just one of them that was on there. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where the confusion kind of came in, and I think the numbers kind of dropped after people weren't finding my consistency on how I normally would release it. Monday, here's a new episode. So now, like on their network, it was Tuesdays was my day, and I would promote it for that. But I don't know, I never saw the numbers on their end because that's their thing.
I see.
But once I started putting it back on mine, I felt like it's like now I'm playing catch up. You know what I mean? Because my numbers have dropped considerably. So now I'm trying to like get back on the promoting machine and just really promote the podcast, and keep it going, because I enjoy doing it. I don't do it for money or anything, or to get fame. I enjoy it because I love the guests that come on, and I always learn something from them, and it helps me kind of like to figure out my brand of what I'm doing. And I'm learning business stuff, talking to the guests as well, whether it's makeup, whether it's starting a shop, whatever it is, I always learn something from them. So that's what I enjoy about the podcast.
So we've been going on for quite a while now. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself, the name of
Yeah.
your show, and then get into more about not only some of the guests, but how you found yourself into this niche, I guess you could say, because the show you do is a niche, but it's a good one, and it's one that I really fell in love with because before I go into you, I just started getting into the horror convention scene. I've always wanted to go. I never did for whatever reason. And one of my favorite parts about that is just like when it came to podcasting or when I was a musician is talking to the vendors, talking to people, asking questions, and that conversation you have when you're stuck with them. And I'm like, oh my God. When I was at the past two conventions, Sun and Monster Palooza, and I'm like, where's my recorder? I go on your show. I'm like, wait a minute, this is what I wanted, but on the microphone, you're doing it. Like you're doing, like you're getting, like I said, the vendors, the artists, you have people like stunt woman on, you had a producer on, you had some girl who made hats, some girls who make a magazine, and like you said, just listening to these people, you learn from them business wise, and it's their interests, and it's just I fell in love with it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's exactly why I like doing it, because when I started doing the podcast, before I had the idea of doing it, I thought it'd be cool to like bring the conversation that I already have with like, say, Veronica from Eye Candy. I go, why don't we just this long conversation that we're having right now? That would be great.
At the booth, yeah, you're at the booth. There's people walking by. You're talking to them.
Yeah, that's what I was like. So not just her, it's like other vendors that I was talking to. I go, we should just like, I'd ask them, how did you start this cake business? You know what I mean? It's like it's a gothy aesthetic baking stuff that she does, and it was this other vendor that I was talking to, and I go, you should really come on my podcast. because this is kind of how it started. I'm asking you questions already, and I'm
Yeah.
learning a lot from you. But I go, this is what belongs on the podcast. You know what I mean? So, and this is kind of how it started. Like it started from me talking to vendors and becoming friends with them, and then learning about their journey.
Yeah, and you want to talk to him regardless, right? And I'm pretty sure that other fans of theirs, whether it be whatever business they're in, would like to hear it. And it also opens up doors to new customers and just followers as well. I started following more people because of you. I'm looking at that zine, those girls you had. I'm looking into getting it. I'm like, oh wait, what was the
Yeah.
word they said? Hot chicks and effects makeup. I'm like, that sounds fucking cool. Who doesn't want hot chicks and like fucking and like creature makeup?
Yeah, and then they actually had. I usually don't do this because when people request to come on, I like to just book my own guests, and it's a very what's it called? I have a very criteria of what type of guest to have on, so I don't just let anybody come on. You know what I mean? I just don't let my friends come on. It has to be good for the show, for the better of the show. So, but they were the first ones that actually had asked me, go, can we come on? And I usually don't take requests like that, just so you know, if anybody's listening. I love you, but, if you're requesting to come on, just wait for me to ask you, because it's
Ooh,
always an uncomfortable conversation. You know what I mean? It's like, it depends what it is. It depends if I think it's good for the show. You know what I mean? Because I could have somebody where I'm not really sure maybe they have like a full-time job already, and they do something on the side, which is fine because I've had a couple of guests that's what they do. But I don't. I primarily want to get people this is their business. This is
yeah.
all they do. They sleep, drink, eat this business, and that's the type of guests I like to have on. So Alondra and Gabby had told me that, and I already knew them because I worked with them. And I go, what is this fan? So it's a fanzine. Okay. That sounds interesting. Like, I think I want to get you guys on then, because it did sound interesting. So it's not like I won't have you on. It just, if it fits for the show, I would definitely consider having them on. And it worked out because they were really great on the show.
Yeah. No, definitely. So, okay, so you talked about the good of the show. I have something similar too, where typically I get a lot of people asking me to, especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
what's it called? Can I come on? My whole thing is I tell them my the thing of the goal of my show is to make you look good. So if you come on the show and you have like a bad demo or no recordings, come in like, oh, because I do a lot of bands. Oh, we're doing this backyard. It's like, no, come in with me with a full recording, a list of venues you're about to play or already played. Come with me with a good resume. That way, when you're on the show, you look like a badass. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you look more professional, as you were saying too. People who you do it as a business, because I want you to look good. I don't want it to look like just, oh well, we don't know when we're playing again, or I want everything to be. I want it to look good. I want you to look good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I want my guests to have something that that they've created. And that's the story with the whole podcast is like, they're all creators and they've all found their niche in this business, and I try to make sure it's also horror related,
Yeah,
even if it's goth apparel, if it's anything that. So if it's like if it's the founder of, like, just to say the founder of uh, Party City or something, I probably wouldn't have him on because I don't really want to talk about Party City, or it doesn't fit the aesthetic. What I'm saying.
yeah,
But
the
if
aesthetic. Yeah,
goth Party City, then I would consider it. Then I would like, okay, that's cool because you have the aesthetic that I'm looking for.
and to go back real quick about aesthetic too, when you're talking about your page and adding video, the thing about you is with your video, for your podcast and for your social media, you have a style already. Because we're about to go into your photography too as well. There's a look you have, a feel you have. Your videos, for the presentation, from the music you use, the shots you take. So if you could, that which makes you very popular because I hear the way they talk about you, I follow you too, and then you can add that. If you put that, it's a great recipe for your social media, I think. And
Oh,
like you
thank
just
you.
said earlier, aesthetic. You want the aesthetic, and I think aesthetic and presentation is something that I find that you're really good at, and as well as your conversation skills. You converse very
I,
well with these guests.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know which videos you're referring to, but they could be like the little 1 minute clips that I just do of a
Yeah,
model or something horror related.
yeah, you'll see like
Those are,
music playing, some of your promo stuff, and also just your podcasting up next or available now, just with the with the models or whoever guest you have. It looks
yeah.
clean, it looks professional, it looks like a good camera. It's not some cell phone, You could tell
Oh yeah,
that
thank you.
you got a
Well,
lens on there. You picked the shot.
well, even like this, I made sure like I told you I'm going to be a couple minutes because I need to set up this camera right here because I wanted to look at. I don't want to use the camera on this laptop because it looks
Yeah,
crappy. I've
that's
shot
what
on
I'm
this
using right
before.
now. I'm looking at it right now going, fuck, this camera sucks. It looks better on my
And I also
tablet.
have a light on me as well. So the light's on me. So I'm lit well. I look better when I'm lit this way, but not like side lighting. It never works for me. It
Mm.
just so I already know kind of like how it looks here when I sit here in this desk. And but yeah, thank you so much. I try really hard to make everything look really clean and good and pick out music that's a little more on the creepy end and not the there's also the happy creepy where it's like kind of more cartoonish like happy creepy, but mine I like it to be dark. I like to
Like
be
the
evil
like the
and
like the Party City creepy.
yeah, exactly, like Party City, like oh this is like a nice and nothing wrong with that either. I like all of it, but I really strive. And sometimes I tell brands too, like if you think this is too dark, let me know. Like I could I could tone it down a little bit, make it a little bit more lighthearted. Because some of them is like it looks really dark, like it looks like somebody just killed somebody and they got blood all over and we're just promoting the hat or whatever. And I go, let me know if this is too much, if it's too like brutal.
And
Um,
that's probably the director side of you too as well. So we're gonna cap this section right here about the aesthetic and stuff. And what were we talking about before that? We're talking about guests and who do you pick and everything, right?
yeah,
Um, so let's talk about how you even got to the podcast in general. Because I looked at your YouTube page. I saw, yeah, you have the podcast. One thing I like too is it shows off some of your photography skills and you're doing reviews on cameras and lenses. So let's start
oh
from the
yeah,
very beginning. Raul, right? But you spell it Ralw.
Raul is Raul, but everyone's been calling me Rawl since I was a kid, and I started spelling with a W since I was 14. So
Okay, that's
I,
not.
I
Is that?
just
I'm thinking. Is that Peruvian spelling?
no, it's because I was watching some movie and the end credits said I think the actor was Lou Rawls or something, or it
Uh,
was I remember it was Lou Rawls, and I was like, and I sounded it out. I'm like, oh, Rawls. Like, okay, that's how people pronounce my name, but that's cool. He spells it with a W because that's the way they pronounce it. So I go,
yeah,
I'm just gonna
Raul.
change it to a W. So I changed it to a W when I was a teenager, and but the correct spelling is Raul, Raul. But yeah, so you want to know when I started the YouTube channel?
Yeah, yeah. We'll just start with the YouTube channel.
Okay. Well, from the beginning, doing this aesthetic was started in 2010 when I had an iPhone, probably iPhone 4 at that time. I don't even remember, but I was taking a lot of pictures with it, and I downloaded the Instagram app. And I was didn't know it was a social media platform at that time. I just thought it was a filter app for your photos. So I started like taking photos with my phone and really getting into like the photography side just with my phone. And then I went to a book signing. Nikki Six from Motley Crue did a book signing with his photography book called "This Is Gonna Hurt." And when I looked through the whole book, I loved the style that he was going for. And it made me want to try it. It made me want to do that with the phone. So from there, from the phone, I go, okay, this is not cutting it. I got to get a camera. So I purchased my first camera in, I think in 2012. So I waited a couple years to save up for a camera. And then
I was gonna say, yeah, to say
that's kind
because
of
some of
when
these cameras
yeah,
aren't cheap. I'm learning that the hard way because I'm looking
yeah.
at cameras now. I'm going,
I mean,
fuck.
I used to spend $200 on a Sony Cyber camera. So I've had those little like pocket ones that are just like cyber shots, and they'd always crap out after about a couple years. So I've had one since like early 2000s, but I didn't use it for photography. I just used it for everyday use. And so I saved up to buy the Canon, and I was looking at the Rebel T3i at the time. The Best Buy had it for like $500, so I saved up $500 and bought my first camera. And I just thought that was a lot of money. I go, man, this is a lot of money to be spending on a camera.
When you say everyday use for the other camera, what do you mean by that? Do you just are you the kind of person that you see something, you just take a picture randomly just because it's a cool shot, or?
Like, I think at that time I was taking a lot of pictures with my daughter because she was still young. Maybe family get-togethers, or if we go on a trip, I'll take my camera with me. But that was just a little point-and-shoot camera. There wasn't nothing like, it wasn't a professional camera. And I knew nothing about it. I just put it on auto, and I didn't edit it or anything. I just like ripped it off from the SD card and just threw it in the computer, and just I still have those photos somewhere. But
and now you got the Canon, you said T3.
Yeah, once I got the Canon, that's when I started like getting into photography a little bit more, and then not realizing that it's not just the camera; it's now lenses. So now I had to purchase another lens. Then I didn't realize the type of camera I had was a crop sensor, which, if you're not a photographer, you're not going to know these things. And I certainly didn't know this, because I went to the camera store and go, hey, I need to get another lens for this. I don't really sure what to get. Everyone's telling me to get a 50 millimeter. So they're like, well, what kind of camera is it? I go, it's a Canon. And they're like, okay, well, is it a crop sensor or is it a full frame? I go, what?
Yeah, I'm going, what? I'm like, I'm going to write this down.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's like, what kind of camera is it? I go, it's a Canon T3 Rebel. It's a Rebel one? Okay, so it's a crop sensor. Okay, so let me show you. I'm like, just the way they're speaking to you, it's kind of like you feel dumb already. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and it's kind of terrible too, because you're a customer. You're there. I'm here to give you money. Treat me like shit.
Yeah, I don't like to be talked down to about anything, especially when I'm just passionate about learning. And you can talk to me and just talk to me like I don't know what I'm doing, but you want to help me and say, hey, here's the differences. And because I always ask people the same question, but I don't say, oh, don't you know what kind of, if you have a full frame or like, and then I don't even know the differences. I go, is full frame better than crop sensor? Now I'm learning like there really makes no difference. So that's kind of how I got into photography. And then learning that I need to get more equipment. I need to get a light. I need to get a stand. I need to get a softbox.
It's a big investment. You complain about the $500. Now you're like, oh man.
Oh my God. Now the camera I want, it's $2,400 that I want. I can't afford that one right now, but I have 3 cameras, so I'm good with cameras. Like these all cost. I think this A7 III cost me $2,000.
That's beautiful. Pull that up again. Let me see that baby.
Huh?
Pull that camera up again. Let me see it. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh, that's nice. See, I'm looking at cameras now. I'm like, whoo, that's beautiful.
This one you can get for like probably $1,400 used now.
I was gonna say, I was talking to photographers too. They say go used. If you go on the websites too, they have refurbished, refurbished.
Yeah, I think this came out in 2018 or something, or 2019. I can't remember, but it's an older camera now, but it's a workhorse. This is like my main camera.
So because I have a friend who's got an older camera. He's like, it's too old. I'm like, well, did it take good pictures in 2015? I'm sure the pictures still look good now.
Anything after 2020 is good.
Oh, okay, after 2020 then.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I would stick with anything after 2020. Anything before, even this is considered old. I can't stream on this one. This is why it's sitting here.
I see.
I'm streaming on the FX30 because that's a newer camera, and this is where I do all my my pro video stuff with, because it's a cinema camera, and it's so user friendly. Like I just plugged it in and it turned right on. Like this one, I have to like get a different device to plug in for. It doesn't work sometimes. I can't figure it out.
But you call it a workhorse. What's it? What do you when you say it's a workhorse? What do you mean by that exactly?
Oh, I've done so many photos with this. Now this is a full frame, so this is the only full frame I have. This is a crop sensor that I have on the FX30, and my other A6600 is also a crop sensor body, which means that the sensor is smaller, so less light comes into those type of cameras. This one, the sensor is it's bigger. It's a 35 millimeter full frame, so this sensor is a lot bigger.
Interesting.
So when you look at the other cameras, the sensor is a lot smaller, which all that just means is that you're like what you're looking at here, like say this is the full frame right here. Okay. And then now the crop sensor is going to be more like right here.
So crop in full frame.
So crop, and then so what does that mean? So say you want to get more of the screen in, so you have to pull back a little bit and then get wider. So you can still do it with the crop sensor. You just got to look at your screen and see where is my subject. Sometimes you want to get closer too. That's the good thing about it. I want to get closer, so I can still use my full frame lenses on it and then really crop in, because sometimes I'm looking for details as well. So they both serve a purpose. And now that I know the differences, that's why I own both of them, because the prices on the lenses for the crop sensors is so much less, considerably less. Like this lens that I'm on right now was like $300. Now any full frame camera with the lenses are at least $1,000. You know. Oh
yeah.
You're not going to find anything really cheap. You know. It's going to be over $1,000.
So all this information you're giving me, which is a lot of information, how did you learn this? Was it through trial and error? Was YouTube your big friend at the time? Did you have someone to teach you? Did you make friends in the photography world or scene?
Basically, everything's YouTube, and then it's all using the gear that they recommend. And then once you start getting familiar, when you go out in the field and you shoot, you start knowing, oh, this is what I need, Nick. You start knowing what you need now. I was like, maybe I don't need that. Maybe I need this instead. So it's a lot of trial and error, and then just learning about the equipment, learning about your camera, learning what everything does, what it doesn't do, really helps. You know, even the audio stuff. Like I'm learning more about audio stuff now, where I didn't, as before, I didn't really like know anything about it. You know, now I'm able to kind of like stream stuff. I know what works. And yeah, just basically YouTube and then trial and error, just shooting all the time.
Yeah, I think shooting all the time. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you stay pretty busy with that, because I heard in your podcast. Actually, well, I'll get to that because I'm going to derail. So okay, so you got your camera, your Canon, you're doing photography now. How did that merge into the YouTube?
Yeah, so I think once I started like getting a little bit more comfortable with shooting, and my YouTube didn't start till like maybe like 2019, 2020. I think even like it was after I got my first Sony camera, which was this one. After I got this one, I started doing more videos behind the scenes, which I wanted to do. I still like doing that. Showing you behind the scenes of like one of my photo shoots. And then I throw them on YouTube, and maybe I'll do a voiceover with it. Then I'll show a final photo, because I've always enjoyed those type of videos where they kind of show you from beginning to end. Yeah. So that's kind of why I started doing the YouTube channel. It's mostly for behind the scenes stuff. And I still want to continue doing that.
And when did you develop your style, your spooky aesthetic, the raw style?
I don't even know I had a style. So I'm still trying to figure out my style, I feel like. But I appreciate you saying that, because I think I started getting into the more the spookier stuff once I started going to conventions, or like Monsterpalooza was the first one. But even before that was like Fangoria. Me and my friend used to go to Fangoria Con at the LA Convention Center. And I've always liked all the makeup and the people in cosplay. So So I started bringing my camera, and then I started bringing a flash, and then I started making the photos look a little bit better. So it doesn't look like you're at a convention either. And it's always tough.
Oh.
It's always a tough, like, because you could be inside, you could be outside, you can be in the lobby, or you can be in the showroom where all the lighting changes. So I was constantly trying to like figure that out. And once I started talking to a lot of like cosplayers and people that love doing like, you know, their characters, like, hey, why don't we just do a photo shoot like one-on-one? We'd exchange Instagram information, and then we would schedule a shoot. And that's kind of how I met a lot of the models, because a lot of these models like to dress up in some type of horror character, and that's where I started like finding out that this is the style that I like. I like shooting portraits. I like shooting dark portraits, and I like making the backgrounds look kind of like very contrasty and very very dark. Even though we're shooting in sunlight, I still want it to look dark. So I knew
Oh.
tricks to do it to make it look dark, even if we're outside. I go, don't worry about it. Because I saw your nighttime shoot you did with so and so. I go, that was not a nighttime shoot. That was totally in the day, but I just make it look dark.
Is this
So
and when you make it look dark, is this done in camera or is this all After Effects? I'm always curious about that because whenever I have a question,
it,
like so for instance, I had
it's
another
mostly
photographer on. I'm like, how do I fix this? Like, dude, you gotta do that in camera. I'm like, fuck.
it's in camera. Yeah, it's totally in camera. So you have to like make sure all your settings are very, very low. And so you want to have your shutter very high. So like this, see, there's like a, I don't know if you can see it here,
Hold on, it's in
but
focus
this
now.
is open. This should not be open, but like, okay.
Yeah,
So there's like a curtain that goes to it takes pictures, right?
yeah.
So the faster that goes, the less light comes in, correct? So the faster your shutter is, the less light's coming in. The more you open it, the more exposed it is, the more light comes in. So once you learn that principle of how that works, then now you can control your lighting. And say, but maybe my aperture, I want it to be, now your aperture is how blurry you want the background. So like, say, like, see my hand right here, see how blurry it got
Yeah.
back there?
Yeah, that's the aperture.
Okay, so I could make it all clear if I want it all in focus. I want the background in focus. So that's got to do with my aperture. But I like the blurry background. So, but that just means I'm opening up my shutter this big as opposed to this big. So again, that's another principle of lighting that you have to learn. And then how do you compensate on all that stuff? Well, now I have to bring in a light to light my subject, because now everything's dark back here because I made everything dark and it's black now. It's pitch black. So this is where the lights come in. So I might light my subject. I might do a highlight in the back or on the side, or maybe I don't want it totally blown out, totally dark in the back. So I could still control that in my camera. And just to bring a little hint of light, so it's not completely lost with my subject, because I like separation on my subject. I don't like this black to be blended into the black background.
Yeah, kind of like I am right now. I'm all blended in.
Yeah, like you are. Yeah. So I like hair lights. I like shoulder lights. I like that 3D look. So I look for that. So I make sure that it looks separate from what's going on in the background. And some people get away with the one light. It looks fine too. But that's not what I like. I like to have separation.
I've seen some of your videos too, where you like. I'll pull up some of your pictures right now, actually, since you brought it up, to where you're
Yeah.
lighting, I guess, products for advertisement. So I'm gonna pull this up right here. This bag you
Okay.
sent me.
Oh yeah.
And look at
Okay.
that. So for those listening, I'll have this video posted. But right now, we're looking at a couple of purses that he
Yeah.
shot, and you can just see, the. Go ahead and describe what we're looking at here.
Okay. So this is two bags that are side by side, heart bags from Rock Rebel. They've been so good to me lately. I love working with them. The girl was telling me she wanted the handles to be shown into the picture.
Mm.
I'll explain the handle thing a little while later, but let's talk about the lighting here. So I have one light on the cheetah side. I have a big softbox on that end, which is lighting. I probably should have switched the bags, because the darker bag is farther away from my light, so it's getting less exposure. Um, I moved the light as much as I could to the front. So to compensate for that black bag being a little dark, I added a bounce V flat, and a V flat's just basically a big white board that's got white on one side and black on the other. So you negative fill and then positive fill, which is like just basically putting like a white sheet, and that light is now bouncing back to the bag, so it's giving me a little bit more light, whereas before it wasn't. And then I do have two side lights that's giving you. See if you see the black bag on the right on my
Yeah.
right side, but I guess on that left, but on the black bag you see the light reflecting around the bag.
Yeah, I
You
see
also
that.
see
Also,
it on.
too, you're able to catch the reflection on the table you're using too, which adds another effect to it.
Yes, and I added that. That was what's it called? Acrylic black what's it called? Like plexi that the studio has that I love using because for that same reason, I want the reflection. And
Yeah.
then I put my background in the back, added a little bit of fog, but you can't really see it here. And then the bag
And the
standing up
handles.
like that
Yeah,
is
how'd you pull that
basically,
effect off? It looks like a ghost
yeah.
is holding it or something.
That one was hard because I didn't have the tools I normally have like at home. I was like, oh, I have all that stuff at home, but I don't have it here. Um, I needed a C stand. A C stand is basically like a stand that you can actually make it into an L shape. So that way I can hang the bags and maybe put like a string on them, and like what's it called, monofilament string, and that way they could stay up, and then I can just Photoshop that out. So they didn't have that, but they had something else where it worked, where it was I just made shift like a pole to another stand, I screwed that in, and then I used these clips to clip the bag on top, so they didn't move, so they stayed open. And then in Photoshop, I just Photoshopped that all out.
Okay. I want to go to this next picture, which probably out of the bundle you sent me is my favorite. We got a girl here
Oh
who,
yeah,
oops, sorry. She's Freddy Krueger. She's got the blood. She's got the hat. Very well
yeah.
lit. She's doesn't have a shirt on. Like I said, I love this picture. Not because of that, but it helps.
No, yeah, we have some uncensored pictures too that I can't post. So this one was inspired by this guy called Horror. Oh, I'm killing his name. Let me just look him up because I want to give him credit for this. Um, he does similar pictures like this, and it really inspired me to do this. What is it? Horrify something. Oh, Horrify MEUK. So he does similar stuff with blood, and it's always got the blue light in it, and he's always lighting the background with like a spotlight that's in the back. So that's what inspired this one. I told Nina, I go, let's do something like this, and I showed her the picture of what he did of a Freddy Krueger as well. And so we added a blue gel to her left side, and it was a strip box, so it was a very thin strip box. I added a light right behind her to shine on the background. I believe the background was just like a black, grungy backdrop, and then a main light on her right side that's just going up above her and coming down, so we see shadows on her, down her nose, and her chin.
Oh yeah.
So we see very
See,
soft shadows.
these are little
It's not
details that
totally
I don't.
dark.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna stop you real quick. These small details you're bringing out, I didn't even notice. I just know it's a good picture, but now I'm understanding why it's a good picture.
Yeah. So the only thing I probably would have added again for this one, because this is an older picture, I would have added another rim shot on her right side so that we can see a little bit more of her hair and the hat. So I feel like it's a little bit lost in shadow there.
Oh, I see.
Um,
Up on the very
Other than that,
top to the top left.
just a little bit, just a little separation can go a long way. So I just wish I kind of would have added that to it. If I'm
Okay, so
critiquing my own work, that's the only
yeah,
thing I would have liked to have
I'm gonna
changed.
I'm going to pull up a couple more, then we'll move on from this. But I just wanted the people who are watching, when I post this, see exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the Rawl style. And here's this one here where it has
Oh,
a doctor working on a subject. It looks like he's cutting her open.
that's so funny. Did I send you this picture?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I must have really liked it because it really is just a random shot. It's not anything I put into it. Like I
Oh, okay.
literally just shot it and then I moved on through the maze. This is at Queen Mary's Dark Harbor. It's
Oh,
inside.
I see.
Yeah, it's inside one of the mazes, and but it was already well lit, and you have to catch it just right because the light is flickering sometimes. So,
Oh,
but I
I
really
see.
liked the way it came out, and then once I edited it, I'm like, oh damn, this looks really cool. Like it looks almost like a movie still. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's one of the good photos I got from that day from being going through a maze. I didn't get a lot of great photos because it's very dark and everything's moving. Sometimes it's blurry
Yeah, yeah.
and
A
it's
lot of
very dark.
adjustments.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay, how about that one?
Oh, this one
Very
was cool.
bloody.
So this is bloody. This is at the haunted hayride, but we didn't. We were doing it during the day because we needed to be there at noon. So haunted hayride starts like around 3. The crew starts getting there around 3. So we had a couple hours to shoot before they got there, but they allowed us to shoot in this one area that has like this radio station that's supposed to be like, I don't know if it's haunted or whatever, but it's supposed to be like a radio station. So, but I like the background, so that's what we used it. So this is one. This is 2 lights. So we got one light above her, kind of like up, going down, and then on her right side we have a separation light. You can see on her elbows. There's a light right there, and that was all 2 lights. That's normally what I do. I knew a 2 light setup is usually what I do. And
Okay,
she,
sorry.
Terry, did an amazing job with the whole. She does makeup, um, anyways, so she did her own makeup, and I thought it was like it worked out for these hats because I know Jenny from Blessed by Liz wanted those
Oh,
hats
so,
to be like,
oh, this is for the hats. Okay.
yeah, she
Like you
wanted.
were talking about, it's all gory, but it's just for a hat or for a bag, and
Yeah, no, but this was actually her idea. She gave me that idea. She's like, I want blood. She goes, make it all bloody, and it'll work for the hats. I go, oh, okay, I can do that for you. So,
and here's just a
so
little
that one was her idea.
compilation you
Oh
sent
yeah,
me. And
yeah.
this is
So
your
those are all like,
website too. We could plug real quick. I'll let you say it right
yeah,
now. This is rawofthedeadphotography.com.
yes, correct.
All right. And when we go there, what are we gonna find?
You're going to find a lot of the photos that I've taken. There's a portrait. There's portfolio there. You're going to find contact information. You're going to find all the links to everything I do, my social media, my YouTube channel, my podcast, the gear I used, and also a booking information if you want to book me. I now have tiers for video if you're interested in me doing a video for you. There's even a wedding package on there too. I have a separate one where I give
Oh,
people a PDF file of my prices for weddings that I don't have on the website. But I tell there is one price package on there. But for the weddings, sometimes people don't want like the spooky ones, so I'll send them a separate one that's like, oh, here's one that I've done. I do separate work. I do regular weddings. I do regular engagement shoots, weddings, maternity. Like I do all kinds of types of photo shoots, not just spooky stuff. That's just what I'm drawn to. So that's kind of what I promote
yeah.
mostly. And I'm finding out that people really like that. Like they want that spooky wedding engagement. They want that photographer that knows that they want like a darkness feel to their wedding photos. They don't want just the light, happy one. So I've been getting hired just for being into the same thing. So it works out. So that's what you'll find on the website. You'll find links to all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcast. It's all on the website.
So how long has the podcast been around for?
So I barely started the podcast 2023 in September. I think September was 2023 is when I got laid off from my job. I used to work at Blackcraft. Once I got laid off from there, I was like, okay, now I have time to do the podcast that I've been thinking about doing, but I wasn't really sure if I had time to do it. But I felt like now is the time to do it.
And
And
by this time, you already had you're doing photography somewhat regularly, or did that come after? Once you got laid off, were you able to do more of the photography that we're seeing that you're doing now?
no, I was basically still doing the same thing. I was just working a full-time job and still doing my stuff on the weekends and on the weekdays. So it left me with very little time to do anything else.
I
But
see.
once I got laid off, I found more time to do all the other things that I do besides the podcast. I can do photo shoots during the week. Um, I can take appointments and meetings with people during the week as well. Because a lot of the times, like I tell people, like I work from such and such hour to like 6 o'clock, so I can talk to you after that. And sometimes it wouldn't work out. So for me, it's worked out to where like I don't even know how I could do a full-time job now and do this, because this is all I do now. So I decided I tried getting another job like as a photographer, because that's what I was doing at Blackcraft. But for some reason I didn't get any callbacks for anything. So I just started creating my own work. I just started creating like things to do for events. Like, what can I offer an event? How can I make money doing this? How about some photo specials, or just continue building up the clientele? So now I'm working for like maybe 5 to 8 brands any given time, and they'll throw me some work that they need stuff shot for their brands with models, sometimes without models. And I appreciate everybody for giving me the work this last year and a half that I've been doing this on my own. So yeah, and that's how I find out about like everybody else that's doing this on their own. How are they figuring it out?
Yeah. That's where
I'm still trying to figure it out myself as well. It's highs and lows, you know what I mean? So it's just trying to navigate it when it's low. So since it's only my first year in, like I'm going to figure this stuff out in the next 5 to 10 years, where like I've got the experience of just doing this by myself now, that I know what works and what doesn't work. And I'm figuring it out right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say too though. So okay, so once you started doing the podcast after you got laid off, and then one thing I admire too is how I heard you say in the podcast that you're freelance, you do photography and your other stuff full time now as a full time job, I guess you could say. That's admiring
Yeah.
because, like I said, you don't have a boss, you're your own boss. You can make your own schedule. However, though, there's that grind you get, like in between jobs, like you talk to musicians, great, but there's still a grind to it.
Oh yeah.
It's not all glamorous. It's cool if you can
No,
wake up at whatever time you want, but like as a joke, but fuck, dude, if you don't get those gigs that time in between, man.
no, it's true. It's definitely a hustle, and it's not for everybody. So I've been in a corporate job prior to Blackcraft. I've been in a corporate job since the 90s.
I heard you say you
Mm,
worked for Fox at one point, right?
I worked for Fox for 20 years, 15 between 2005 and 2020. I worked in 1995 to 2000 in the mailroom. I left to work for Rolling Corporation, which is they do keyboards, they do all the Boss stuff, musical stuff. I worked for them for 5 years, and that's a corporation as well. Um, but the corporate world's, I didn't realize how abusive it can be, and how not understanding to like people's business and their livelihood. They don't care. They can care less if your daughter is sick. Like, well, you can't miss any more days. Sorry, you're out of time. Or, hey, I have to go to a funeral. Like, my grandma passed away. Oh, well, you can't really take any more time out. Like, there was like all that like going on that led to like me like not being fully happy. But I
Yeah.
didn't know I was not happy until I got furloughed in 2020 from Fox, and I was working at my daughter's job at the time at Edible Arrangements doing deliveries, and I was loving it. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm getting paid to do deliveries, and I get to listen to the radio. I'm on my own. I don't have to listen to anybody. and I get to go home and just like not be too far away from home, not hitting traffic anymore. 2.5 hours of traffic coming home was done. So when we did go back to Fox, that's when I realized I don't really want to be here anymore, and my whole mindset had already changed, and I was like, I got to get out of here, you know. So when the Blackcraft thing opened, I actually took it for less pay, and no benefits on top of that.
This is
So my
Blackcraft, you
health
said?
care was gone. That was just done. My pension still exists till now. I'm gonna collect on that next year.
Wait, what's
I'm
Blackcraft? I'm
glad.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Blackcraft, you said? You started working for, you left Fox
So
for.
so after Fox, I went to go work at Blackcraft because they had an opening for a warehouse worker. But I really got in there because I wanted to get into photography, and I knew that I could shoot brands. I knew I could shoot all that stuff because I'd already been doing it. And so they gave me a shot to do it when they needed a second photographer and videographer in the same year, 2020. And so I applied, and they gave me a shot, and it went from 2 to 3 days a week to 5 days full time, to where like I didn't have to go back to the warehouse anymore. I worked now in the office, and I was primarily doing shoots with the main photographer there, Raquel, who is my guest on the next episode of my podcast, and we talk about that a little bit too. So, so once that whole thing kind of like ended, I didn't want to go back to doing warehouse work. I wanted to go back to doing what I love doing, because I realized
Yeah.
that about myself. I like doing photography. I like doing videos. I like editing. So I don't want to go back to doing anything else. You know, if it's going to be another job, it has to be the job that I want to continue doing, not just work in another warehouse. You know, I don't
No,
want to do that. I'm
I'm
too
a
old.
warehouse guy myself, and I'm telling you right now, I fucking hate it too. I hate it,
Yeah,
like fuck, dude. And well,
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off too about the Blackcraft thing. You said that you're still going to collect your pension for Fox because you were there for what, 20
yeah.
years?
I was there long enough to collect a pension, so I'm vested in there. I think on year 15.
Hmm.
So, and I did 20 years there. So I'm collecting one of my pensions next year.
All right. And then, so what are, okay, so let's talk about some of the highs and lows. So, of course, the lows of working for yourself is financially in between jobs, right? What are some of the highs?
Some of the highs are like just being able to work with a lot of creative people. That's what I love about it. It's like whether it's models or whether it's somebody that's like a brand, and it's their brand, and I love the creativity behind it. That's really what I enjoy. And then coming up with concepts, something different. That's because a lot of people just shoot on their phone. Here's the bag, here's the wallet, here's the shirt. You know what I mean? And
And then,
that's
like,
it.
post on Instagram, just a quick picture. There's no style to it.
That's it. Yeah. So I'm trying to like more get into like a little story driven with it, where we add video, or maybe they're walking with your shirt, and maybe it has something to do with the shirt, or maybe it has something to do with the bag. Maybe it's a coffin bag. Maybe now you're in a cemetery. You want to make it look a little bit more towards the style of that, instead of just shooting it over there, by your couch or
Yeah.
outside. So those are the things I enjoy, like being creative with. It's like coming up with concepts that just look different than everybody else. I don't want to be like everybody else. Like I see what everybody else is doing, and I just go, okay, I'm going to do the opposite of all that. I'm going to do something completely different. I don't want to
Yeah.
keep doing the same style that everybody else is doing.
Yeah, because it'll be easy to scroll by you or just to move on because I've seen this before, and that's when we go back to the Raul style, the aesthetic, the creepy style. I wanted to ask you this too, though. So when you started your podcast, did you already have a list, an idea of what guests you're going to? Because you mentioned how you were talking to these people at conventions.
Mhm.
Did you? I know for myself, when I first started the podcast, I made a list, like a hit list. I called it jokingly, of
Yeah,
people I'm going for. Because these are people who either I had a relationship with prior when I was in the music scene, or that I
yeah,
freaking just really wanted to talk to. And like I wasn't professional. Podcasting was still at that time when I first started. What's a podcast? Is it the radio shows before that big boom that happened? Like I'd say what, like I don't even know when did podcasting really blow up, like 2017, 16, you would say?
I feel like, yeah, around 2018, maybe. Like, I remember,
Okay.
like, that's when I started kind of getting more into podcasting. And
Yeah.
now it's just like everybody has a podcast. Like,
Everyone has a
I
podcast
feel like
at that time.
I feel like I'm just another one. I'm like, I have a
Yeah.
podcast.
At that time, yeah, podcasting was because it was like I first decided to do it in 2014, and the first recording was 2015. It was still, like I said, very new, very new. People knew what a YouTube channel was. People, like I said, they thought it was internet radio. Essentially, they didn't understand because I
Yeah.
fell in love with the, as you mentioned in the very beginning of the episode, that conversation where you feel like you're in the room with somebody.
Yeah.
So going back to what I was saying was, did you have a list of
Oh,
and
yeah.
if so, did you get
I
to
still
get
have a
them? Did
list.
you get them all?
My list, I got through about 80% of it. Of the first year of the guests that I wrote down, I got 80% of the people that I wanted on that list. Like Veronica was one of them. Backstage Bruja was one of them. There's still people that are on that list that I'm still talking to about doing the podcast still. And then I should start a new list now. But I do have like other people that I want to get on that I'm in talks with right now. People from Face Off, from that show Face Off that was on
Oh
Sci-Fi.
yeah, yeah.
A couple of those people I'm trying to get on. And I'm trying to open it up to a different variety of other areas of the horror genre. Whether you're coordinator for like Monster Palooza or Midsummer Scream or any of these events, which I've had people from, Creep It Real on Midsummer. I like having those people because they create events, and that's a whole different level of stress that I don't know how to handle.
I've done that. I've had people who created festivals, like music festivals, like the Long Beach Cyclone was a psychobilly festival. I had those guys on,
Yeah.
and I would release it. You could probably do this too, close to the event, so that way before the event you could hear the episode with the creators, and kind of pumps you up,
Yeah. No, yeah. That's like I like knowing about all that stuff. Like, what made you get into it, and how does it work? Like, how do you maybe not how do you make money, even though I am curious, how do you make money doing that? But
Yeah, well, that could be an off mic topic.
yeah, there's an understanding. I think once I listen to them and like, okay, that's kind of where it's coming from, and I see it now. So, but yeah, that's the list that I still need to grow. I need to make a new list. I do have people that I want to get on that are a little bit more on the high end of the horror genre. You know what I mean? And I'm slowly getting there. The biggest person to me that I've had personally was the bass player from Dismember, because Dismember is a band I idolized like since I was in my 20s. Death metal. They're still playing. They just got back together, and they did a round of festivals here in the U.S. for a little while. And I'm just so grateful that he came on and he agreed to it. And he was such a cool person. I'm like you're the biggest guest I've had so far, like in my opinion, because that's like somebody I grew up kind of like idolizing as a band, and he's an original member.
No, that's a good feeling, because a good chunk of my guests I've had on, because I'm not sure if you follow my page. They're all people I idolized at a young age. A lot of them, a good chunk of them. I
That's
found
awesome.
out a couple of times, and I just learned that don't be afraid to ask, because the worst thing you could do is tell you no. And I've been told no before, and a couple of times I was heartbroken, but now I just get over it. I go, okay, I'll go talk to someone else. Maybe you'll change your mind later, which has happened before, but it's I'd say with any guest you have, just don't be afraid to say, don't be afraid to ask. Plus your show has a good following. You have the aesthetic. You click on your page, you go, oh, this is cool looking. That's the thing, is it's cool looking.
I think that's important to point out, is that don't be afraid to ask. I think a lot of times you shut that out of your mind, like, oh, I'm not even going to ask because they're going to say no, and I'm afraid of rejection.
A rejection, yeah.
But don't be afraid of rejection. All you kids listening out there, don't ever be afraid to ask somebody. The worst they can say is no. And trust me, I've had people be rude to me. Not on my podcast, just rude in general. Just like, excuse me, like, or whatever. I've had celebrities be mean to me at Fox, but don't be afraid of that. Just develop a thick skin and just say, hey, would you love to come on? If not, no harm, no foul. It's all good. If you don't have time to do it, that's fine too. Like it's at least I asked, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
everything I've gotten up until this point, I didn't get it because I waited for it. I did it because I asked. I asked to be a photographer at Blackcraft. I asked to get a guest on that I thought was going to say no, and he said yes. I've asked somebody to play my birthday party a musician that I love, Bob Forrest. Out of the whim, he said yes. I'm like, so it taught me early on, like if I just ask, it could happen. They could say yes, and sometimes
Can
they do,
happen.
and that's the great part of it.
Like we'll just say it again. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid of rejection. Most of these people are really cool. I'm pretty sure, especially since you're in horror or you deal with horror, you got like some of the Hollywood people and stuff, and they'll probably be mean to you. But like I said, the worst thing you could do is say no, and
Yeah,
maybe
that's
laugh
it.
at you a bit.
And if they're rude about it, like, who cares? You know what I mean? It's like you're not gonna
Yeah,
talk to them again. So
yeah.
don't
They'll
be
forget
afraid.
about you anyways.
Yeah, like I've had people, I've had Quentin Tarantino be mean to me, not for the podcast or anything, but I ran into him at a Morrissey concert, and he was coming out, and my friend had told me, he's like, Quentin Tarantino's coming up right now. I go, no way. I go, this is awesome. I'm such a huge fan. And he came, I had my other phone with me, and I was like trying to take a picture of Quentin, and I have a picture of him going like, no, like swiping. It's all blurry, and he's just like, get out of my face. And he was like so rude. He's like, get out, no pictures, get away from me. I'm like,
Yeah,
geez,
I've been yelled at
calm
by
down,
guests
bro.
or people
Just
I've
a
tried to get
fan,
on.
what I mean? I'm a fan of yours. Like he could have just been nice about it, but hey, I'm sure he needed to go home or whatever.
Yeah,
So
maybe he
yeah,
was with like a mistress or something. He didn't want to
he
be in
did
the
have a
tabloids.
girlfriend. Like that was, I think, within a single day. That was a girlfriend he had. But this is like a 2011, 12, maybe 13. I don't know, somewhere around there. I know I was already in photography, but at that time, I think I was just doing like I was just at the Morrissey concert. I just had my phone with me. But the other one that was really nice to me was King Diamond. King Diamond came out to do. He was doing the Will Turn, and I went there early to see if I can catch him backstage. And I have a picture of him as well, and he was so nice to all the fans. He was like, "Hey, I got to go to sound check, but thanks everybody." And he kept signing, even though they were pushing him away. Like, "Come on, King, we got to go in and get your sound check." He's like, "No, let me sign a couple more albums. I'll see you guys inside." He kept signing. He took a picture with me right before he went inside. I'm like, "See, that guy was totally awesome,"
Yeah, yeah. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we talked about photography. We talked about your early days. We talked about the ups and downs of being what's it called? Independent in what you do. We talked about the podcast and the guests you have on, and a lot of good ones. Like I said, I was going down the list. Like I said, these are people I would love to talk to too. Like we talked about earlier, going to convention, the fun part is talking to people. I get so excited because I knew when I went to a horror convention I would like it, but I had no idea how much I would like it. I was like that smile creature,
Yeah.
just like walking around. I'm like, hello, what is this? What's this made of? This is
Yeah.
incredible, and then like the celebrities walking around, you're walking by, you're taking a piss next to Michael Myers and that whole
Yeah.
thing was just fucking funny. Oh, excuse me, the Pinhead. What's it called? Scanning autographs, which autographs are kind of pricey. Don't get me wrong. I spent some good money on that. I don't regret it at all, though. I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
And then the shopping, and then the artwork you see there, it's like we mentioned earlier, you're not going to buy this at Michael's or Target, which is fine. Some of that stuff's pretty nice, but you get like, if you're into creepy or really good or into horror artwork, it's fucking amazing. Some of the stuff we see there at these conventions.
Everybody's so creative. Like they think of things that I would not have thought of at all to sell. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, this is different. You know what I mean? This is kind of cool. And what I like about these conventions is like everybody's small business. I could see all that stuff at my house, and I could easily go through all the money and buy everything because I want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
I don't really do the autographs too much. I've never been really an autograph person. I did take a picture with Harvey Gillen from What We Do in the Shadows because there was no line there, and plus it's a newer show that I enjoy, and so I got a picture with him at one of the Monster Paloozas. But for the most part, I try not to like do too much celebrity stuff with
Oh, sorry about that. I was going to laptop.
No,
I'll plug it in later. But go ahead. Yeah. So you know what? I didn't think I was into autographs until I'm a sucker for Scream and like Return of the Living Dead. Pretty much, you know what? I just lied. I'm an autograph guy. I fucking love it. I love
No,
it.
that's
It's
cool.
expensive. I fucking love it. I love chatting with the celebrities, especially if they're cool and they give you some time. You know, the
Yeah.
lines suck. The lines suck, but when you get that interaction with them, it's I don't know. You don't get that everywhere. You don't get that feeling everywhere. You know, someone you've seen
Yeah.
you appreciate their art, you love their character, you grew up with them, and that interaction you have with them.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, especially a lot of the people that you have grown up with, like Linda Blair. I grew up basically that's the horror movie that I've still scares me. Still one
Mm.
of the most terrifying movies, in my opinion, ever made. She's been nice to me, and she's also been mean to me. But I'm not gonna like badmouth her because this is just who Linda Blair is. Like she doesn't play games. She doesn't want her picture taken, so don't take her picture. So as long as you obey those rules, she won't yell at you. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
I was trying to sneak in a picture. Like I was way in the back, and I was trying to take a picture of her, and she immediately stopped all that. She's like, nope, no pictures. And she yelled like in front of everybody at Monster. And then another time she wouldn't stop talking to me. Like I was already off the line, and she just kept talking to me. I'm like, I gotta go. Like you got a big line
yeah,
here. So she's been cool. She's been cool for the most part. But she's very, very um she doesn't play games. You know, she's here to do
yeah.
a job. She wants to do this for her charity, for her the dog charity that she has. And I love that she does that. You know what I mean? She does this it all goes to the Linda Blair Foundation, which is awesome. I totally support her on that.
So, here's another question I want to get into because Palooza is fucking huge. Like the amount of people that show up, you think you're showing up early, you're still in line forever. It's so freaking long.
Oh yeah.
Um, the main the community you have, the horror community for your podcast and stuff, it's a niche community. It's very tight knit, I guess you could say small, but horror in itself, you have that small subculture. But horror in itself is so fucking big right now, bigger than I've ever seen it. Like growing up, because I'm 40. I think you're older than me, but it's
I'm way older.
people that I would never expect to be into horror now. Why do you think that is, and when do you think that started?
I was gonna say I think it's because we've all been into it since we were kids. I'm 54, so I've been into Halloween stuff since the 70s, going into 80s, being in a death metal band. I've always liked dark shit. Um, and I think everybody kind of in my age bracket between 25 and like even in their like I would say not as old as me, but maybe in their 40s or mid 40s, they all kind of grew up the same thing, watching 80s horror, watching Scream in the 90s, and growing up with all those movies, you know, where now they have like a new life and it's taking on like a second life on its own. So I think people are now grown up. They all have jobs. They're all making good money, and they enjoy going to these conventions now because like we're all grown up now. We're not kids anymore.
And
And
I noticed they pass it on to their kids because you see, the last Son of Palooza, they had a costume class. They had a kids section. I'm like, these are the fucking coolest kids ever.
oh yeah, they've been having that for years. Yeah, that was at Burbank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to that one. I wanted to go, but I was working an event late into the night on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday I had two shoots. So Sunday was the day I was going to go, and I forgot. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just go Sunday." And then I realized, like, "Oh wait, I have two shoots back to back on Sunday, so I couldn't go." It's the first monster I've missed since the second or third one, and I
Yeah.
think they're
See,
up to like
and
what? I think they're up to I don't know what number, but it started off as Monster Palooza, and then Son of Monster is the smaller one.
yeah,
But
I
I've
remember
never
before
missed
Monster
any of them.
Palooza used to be at Burbank exclusively. Then the big one came
Yeah, the big one
because,
now is at Pasadena, and
as we
I'll
mentioned, because
still
there's so many, it's so big now. There's so many people.
yeah, and then even bigger than that one is Midsummer Scream. That one's become the dominant one, at
Oh,
least for
at the
me.
Queen Mary.
No, that one's in Long Beach. It's at the Long Beach Convention Center. It's right by Queen Mary, but it's
Okay.
Midsummer Scream. To me, is just it's just nobody can compete with that one because that one's just like big props to David and Claire and Rick. and the whole crew that does an amazing job with Midsummer Scream. They keep up with all the updates. They go to haunts throughout the whole year to figure out other haunts that they can bring. What I like about them, it's very interactive. It's not just vendors. There's panels. There's celebrity panels. There's screenings for movies. They'll have a kids section where they do magic. And then you have a whole Hall of Shadows side, which is all the preview for Knots, Horror Nights, all the smaller LA Haunted Hayride. It's all a preview of what's coming in October, and you get to experience all that.
Also, they have like little rooms with like all the display, the costumes, and like here's the thing. I've never been to Midsummer Scream. I was gonna try to go to one this past year because Veronica was vending at it, and I wanted to get the I wanted an autograph of the Ghostface Roger Jackson, the phone voice. But I was kind of I wasn't working at the time. Like I was off work for a while, and I kind of blew my load, the money I saved at Monster Palooza because that was my first one, and I threw some cash down. I threw some cash down with that one.
And then we all do well at Midsummer Scream. All of the vendors do well. I just started doing like photo prints at Midsummer Scream. So now if you want to take a photo at my photo experience, you can now get it printed, and you can, it's $5-10, whatever I charge for it. And, you get a good picture with it, and you get to go home with it. And that's kind of what I started the photo booth thing at these events, because I love all these events, and I love the aesthetic of everybody putting all these haunted houses together. Now, when you bring your phone and you take a picture, it looks crappy because it's on a phone. So my idea was a long time ago. This is years ago. I wanted to do this for Monster Palooza, and I talked to Elliot, and I told him my idea. He goes, "Well, we don't have no vendor space right now. You'd have to get on the waiting list." I go, "I don't really want vendor space. I just want to be able to take photos of people that are in cosplay, like the costume contest. Why can't they go to a section that we kind of makeshift into a small little set?"
Oh, yeah.
And I'll light it the way I normally would light, and we'll take a good picture, and I'll give it to you, or I could put it on an online link or whatever, and people can download it, and I'll have content as well. So the only ones that kind of like gave me a chance with that was Creep It Real. I pitched them the idea, and they said they were down to do it. So I started off doing it there. I pitched it to Midsummer Scream. They loved the idea. They said, "Absolutely, let's do this." So now, we're taking it to the next level. Now we're having prints on the spot. We're making sets now that are a little bit bigger. So the next one for next year, I'm already thinking of that one already now for what I want to do for Midsummer Scream for next year to get a good photo experience. So that way you come in, you get your photo, and it could be interactive. It could be with a cosplayer, or like last year, just this one Midsummer, we had Beetlejuice cosplay guy that does amazing work. Brandon, he acts just like Beetlejuice. He's like legit, and he was having fun with everybody, and everybody just loved the interaction, and it's just fun. That's what I love about it. It's like, So I'm learning.
I love how you said of photo experience, because social media is so big now. One of the things is when you go to these events, like Mystic Museum, you had the guy on. That was an amazing episode, by the way. If anyone hasn't had a chance to hear it, check that one out. His whole freaking thing is make stuff look cool and take a picture in there, and make it interactive, like you said, like the fucking chick from like the girl from Scream hanging in the garage, freaking Carrie and stuff, and the noises, and that's genius. It's not like it's what's it called? It's not like it's the greatest makeup or greatest costumes. It's simple, but it looks good on camera, and it's fun.
Yeah. So we're doing now, so I work with a few cosplayers. Spooky Professor is one of them, and she did her Samara, she did Joker this last one at Creep by Econ, and that's what it is. Like, people get to experience it, like with her coming out of the TV. You know what I mean? And then you can take a picture with her on the TV, like from The Ring.
I love it.
Yeah, or any of her other things that she might. We're doing another one in February for Creep by Econ, and I don't know if she wants to announce it yet, but we have ideas for that one. So that's what I like to bring into these events. It's like, and I don't do all of them. I do the main ones that are worth it, because I have to like hire a crew. I have to hire like somebody to do the prints for me. I have to hire somebody to do transactions for me. And then on top of that, we take breaks too. So we all rotate on breaks. And then it just makes it fun for everybody because it's something I know I can do. I can totally take photos and I can still vend at these places as a photo experience. Whereas before I was trying to sell prints and nobody gave a shit. They're like, oh, we don't want that. And I wouldn't sell anything. So I'm like, I thought of the idea of doing something different, and it's working out so far. I'm enjoying doing it.
That's cool. And then on your website, of course, on your social media, you could probably see these events you're going to be at. Because like I said, so name some of the events that you do normally. That way, in the future, people see the event, they know that you'll be there doing this photographic experience. I love that word. It's photographic experience with cosplay, with spooky stuff.
Yeah, it's not just a photo booth. So it's like, yeah, you can just go and get a photo. I've seen those. I've seen people set it up where it's like, just come get a free photo, and it's just a photo booth, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. But I want it to be more of an experience where you're almost like going into a haunted house.
Yeah,
and you're coming into where you're interacting with the cosplayer. So Brandon is coming back as Beetlejuice for Creep It Festive in November 22nd and 23rd. We're gonna have another cosplayer the following day, a different person. I'm not sure what she's doing yet, but it's gonna be pretty good, I think. So she's never disappoints me. So we'll have two people to do interactive photo experience. It's gonna be Christmas themed too. So
yeah.
Come get your photos at Creep It Festive, and I'll be there both days, and we'll provide prints as well.
That's going back to what we're saying, how spooky and horror is so big now that it's all year round. Horror Christmas, horror Thanksgiving, horror summer, Midsummer Scream.
It's year round for me, definitely. For me, it's all year. Like people
definitely. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. People tell me like, hey, do you are you gonna be sad when Halloween's over? Like, no, because I've been doing this all year. It's just more is gonna come. That's all. It's like, it's not. I'm just not gonna tone it down. I'm saying, if anything, I'm gonna turn up the volume more. You know what I mean? We're gonna get more horror stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I like doing. And then I could probably talk about this really quickly if you want. I just thought of it last night, and sometimes things just pop into my head. But I want to do. I want to challenge myself to do 12 short stories in the next, and do one every month. So you'll have a short horror film every month from me for the next year, starting in December.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm challenging myself.
That's a challenge out there. Like you said, that's wow. Because because you directed before, right? You have some directing experience.
That's exactly why I'm challenging myself, because I need to like start doing more filming. And I haven't really been doing that this whole year. I did a little bit towards the end of last year, and then I'll do some of the content for whatever thing we're doing. But I want to do more story-driven stuff where it's like we have a small script, we have a shot list, and we have it lit correctly, and we have a nice location and a good story to go with it. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to write down all my ideas today or tomorrow, because I already have a couple of ideas for two of them. But I want to actually post something about it and let people know that if you guys have ideas, and if there's something you can come to the table with, where it's makeup, wardrobe, cinematography, behind the scenes photography, hit me up, because let's collab on this thing. And nobody's getting paid for this, but let's collab on this and see if we can all help each other and work and learn doing this together. Mm-hmm. So
can I cover some of it? Can I show up on set and record a little?
Of course. Yeah, you're more than
welcome. You're behind the scenes.
You're the first one I'm telling. I'm going to make a video announcement about it later in the month of November, but I figure let's just talk about that, because it was, because
this is going to come out in November. I'm all excited. Like I said, when I see horror, when I see vendors, when I talk horror, I fucking lose it, because as you mentioned earlier, I grew up with it. I grew up with this stuff. Like,
this should be fun. So I'm going to try to challenge myself and try to do one every month on top of the podcast.
Okay, so I got another question. So I have a whole fucking list of topics here. I barely touched any of them because I was listening to some of your episodes and there was stuff that either your guest touched on or you touched on that I wrote down, right?
Okay.
One of them being, well, shit. Like I said, a lot of this. Let me try to get to. Okay, so you mentioned you're Peruvian, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're talking about how your Spanish is different, Peruvian food, Mexican food. So you really didn't have pizza until you were 13?
Yes. Correct. Till I started playing baseball. I think I was maybe 12, maybe not 13, but I was 12. When after baseball we'd go get pizza, and I was like, oh, I don't know what pizza is. Like, all the other guys in the team were like excited, like, yeah, we're gonna have round table pizza, or whatever the pizza place was at the time. Like, I go, all right, why are they so excited? Like,
And
what's
at this
pizza?
point, you've only had Peruvian food, right? Growing up.
I've only had Peruvian food. I didn't even have Mexican food at that time. I didn't have Mexican food till I was like 14,
And
14,
did you?
15 when I went to my friend's house, and he's always having rice and beans, and it was always like flour or corn tortilla. And they were that, which one do you want? I'm like, I don't know. What is that? Like, what?
What
Aren't you
is?
Mexican? Like, I'm not Mexican. But
What's
you guys
what?
eat Mexican food? I go, no, we don't. Otherwise I would know about it.
Yeah, I've been to a Peruvian restaurant. I guess what I ordered I didn't really like. It was very salty, very saucy, more onions and chicken, but it could have just been the restaurant. However, though, what is a good go-to intro Peruvian dish for me to try out?
Lomo saltado or pollo saltado. Those are my favorite ones. It's like rice and chicken, or lomo is just basically like steak, and it's chopped up, and it's mixed in with rice. Also, papa a la huancanilla is like potatoes with like a yellow sauce on it, and if you put a little bit of the chili that they have on it, it tastes really good. What's another one? Arroz chofa, which is I'm sorry, that's what I was describing. Arroz chofa is the chicken
Okay.
with rice, and then the lomo saltado is different. It's like it's potatoes, it's meat, and also very good. It's the sauce mostly that makes it good.
Okay, because
So
the stuff
those
I got
are
was
your
really
go.
saucy, but not in a good way. Is there a restaurant you would recommend in LA for me to check out? Because I know you mentioned in
Um,
the podcast that you mostly cook at home now, which is a good thing because
yeah,
um,
I think
eating
the
out does
one
get you
in
big.
there's one by Paramount Pictures called, I think, Manny's, or is it called Manny's, or is it called um it's I know it's somebody's name. I think it's they're hard to find. They're very hard to find. When my dad was still alive, he would look for restaurants and try them out, and then he would recommend if they were good or not. Uh, there's also Pollo Inca, which is more of a franchise one. That most of those are in the South Bay. You'll find it in Torrance, Redondo. Uh,
Yeah, I'm more in
Pollo, In-
I'm
Pollo Inca
I'm
is good.
technically in the San Fernando Valley, but like San Fernando, LA, Hollywood area. Like I'll drive a little bit just to kind of try. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
I think
what.
any of those you can't go wrong with. Those are
Okay.
ones that I've tried, and they're really good, especially the one by Paramount Studios.
All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna make a date of it one time. A mandate, a Peruvian mandate. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try out something with you, just because, like I
you should
said,
try it out. Yeah,
because I
I
still
don't eat
got a
it
bunch
now
of.
because it's very heavy.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I got to have you on again because for one, I want to cover some of that movie stuff you're doing, and two, like I said, I really like talking to you. I got other shit I want to talk about, but time wise, I can't cover everything. But okay, but I do want to cover this because one thing I've been talking about with a friend of mine too recently, because like I said, we're getting older. You mentioned you had a daughter. Um, when you were growing up, because you're Peruvian, I'm Mexican. I know some Mexican parents are really strict, they're religious. My parents weren't. I had young parents, and they actually really exposed me to horror movies at a very young age, and were okay with me watching some of this stuff. Like I said, I went to see Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare in theaters when I was like, I don't even know what I was under 10. What is a good age to expose your kids to horror? And how old were you when you were exposed to horror movies? Like, did you have strict parents? Like, what was that like for you?
Oh man, I'm the wrong person to ask this because I exposed my daughter to like horror movies when she was a kid, and probably shouldn't have. But it's just made her into the woman that she is now. You know, I mean, she's not afraid of any of that stuff. But I know some people think that's bad parenting, but it's just stuff that I grew up with. Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, me and my daughter were both into Saw when she was
I
a
got
kid, so and we grew up watching
my shirt on.
Saw together. So I don't know what is a good age. I would say wait till they're 12 or 13 to show maybe the more terrifying ones. You know what I mean? And my parents weren't very strict because we were like latchkey kids, so we were
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much watching ourselves, and we would just rent movies. Anything that looked cool on the cover, we would rent. And throw in the old VHS and watch whatever it was. We'd watch a lot of B movies, that then they weren't like huge or anything, and
like what Full Moon stuff, like Puppet Master, Doll
like
Man.
more like gory stuff. Like there was one called oh, what's it called? It's called I'm drawing a blank on everything today. It's called something freak. Basically it's all gore, and it's got a cult following now. I just can't remember the name of it, but it's just there's no storyline. It's just very much gory. People's hands get cut off. It's like the early Terrifier, because
Oh
it's
yeah,
just all gore, and this is like early '80s. So,
yeah. I remember when I first rented that movie, The Maniac.
Blood-sucking freaks. That's what it's called.
Oh, Bloodsucking Freaks. Okay, I've never seen it. I did see
Yeah.
The Maniac at a very young age, though. And I still remember when Tom Savini got his head blown off. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
He's scalping hookers. I was too
and
young
those
for
are
all of
like
this stuff.
practical effects too. That's
Oh,
what
I
I
love
love.
it.
I
I
love
love that
practical effects.
too. And you mentioned the VHS, whatever looked cool in the case, because you mentioned too that you were a
Yeah.
musician. I just can't help but think how we grew up in a great era, especially. I think both of us. You said you're in your 50s, which I don't believe it when I heard it, because you look amazing. It's probably all that cooking at home. You don't eat out.
It's because I love horror and I love music. So you
Okay.
combine those, you stay young at heart.
So the aesthetic of the VHS, the covers, that inspired so many probably other filmmakers, so many other musicians for writing and everything. It was a good time, definitely, the VHS era. The posters, the creatures, the practical effects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I loved all that stuff growing up. So I'm glad I grew up when I grew up, because I was able to watch some of the more terrifying stuff that was coming out. Now everybody's like, "Oh, this is a scary movie." It's like, I just want it to be good. It doesn't have to be scary, because you can't really scare me anymore. It's like I'm already like
Yeah.
sanitized with.
Did you see the new Smile movie?
No, I haven't even seen the old one.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't even seen the other one. I hardly get to watch movies, which I've talked about in the podcast. Like I'm just don't get to do it very much. I just watch classics. I actually just watch a lot of comedy, like old '80s TV shows that
Oh,
that I
yeah.
grew up with, and I have that in the background while I'm editing or while I'm on social media. But I'm usually just thinking of ideas, so I don't really have like time to dedicate 2.5 hours to a movie, because I feel like during that time I could be doing some work, or I could be coming up with another creative idea. And unless it's a movie I really want to watch, like the Saw X that came out, I had to go to the theater and
Oh,
watch it because
yeah.
that's television.
I
But any
started
new
I
movies
started
or
I started
yeah.
following the Saw franchise recently because I was out of work for 6 months. I had a surgery, so I was fucking stuck at home for 6 months. So I told
Oh
myself
yeah,
I'm going to catch up, because prior to that, my work schedule was garbage, so I never got to watch much. I'd always go back to those comfort shows you mentioned, the comedies from the '80s. I was
yeah,
doing '90s comedies, Seinfeld, and stuff from the 2000s, Freaks and
yeah,
Geeks, and then I found myself back to watching things, because my attention span for watching is not nearly as good as this for listening, like podcasts. I could listen to 8-10 hours of podcasting. A movie after 2 hours, I'm like, okay, I'm fucking done.
yeah. No, totally. I get it. Yeah.
What were some of the what shows, podcast shows, made you fall in love with the art of podcast and the art of conversation?
I think it was the Rosenbaum one. Um, what's it called? I forgot. Inside of You, and then Joe Rogan. Even though I don't agree with everything Joe Rogan says, I like his style. Also, Mark Maron. Those are good ones. Those are being the main ones I was kind of listening to.
Yeah.
The way they all do different podcasts, and they all have a different style to it. But I think my style is kind of more on the Rogan side, sort of like where it's a normal conversation, just two people relax and talking. Um, that's kind of like how I emulate my podcast. I want it to be like just chill and relax. Like let's just talk about stuff. Let's talk about life. You know, if it goes into talking about relationships, that's fine. That's where it's going to. I don't try to lead anything where it's going to go. I want it to go naturally there. Like if we started talking about that, let's just continue talking about it.
Yeah,
Let's learn
yeah.
from it. You know.
Yeah, I just did now. I said I had a couple of questions, like a list of things. I'm like, fuck, let's just go. Let's just ride. I think I stopped you for a second when you were talking about oh God, I forgot because I jumped in to bring it because I brought up a point because I knew if I didn't bring it up, I was gonna forget it about watching stuff. You know how you
Yeah.
were saying that you don't really watch too many things because your schedule and then you rather create. Is that what you were saying? If I remember correctly.
Yes. I'd rather just kind of like just get back into like learning something. Learn a new tool in Premiere Pro, or maybe learn After Effects a little bit more. Maybe learn something. Watch a YouTube thing that of something new that's coming out, or something new in filmmaking. I'd rather learn about it and I do learn about it by watching it as well, because I'm looking for those type of things. But I just can't dedicate. Sometimes I can't just watch every movie though that comes out every week. It's just I just don't have the time for it. Like it's just like I said, it has to be like Beetlejuice. Of course, I'm gonna go see Beetlejuice too. Like I went to go
How'd
see
you
it
like
already.
that one? That one's like mixed. You liked it?
I liked it. Yeah.
I'll just tell my barber right now. He hated it. So I'm like, some people like it, some hate it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I would go see it again, and I thought it was just good nostalgia to have everybody back. You know, especially Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice and Winona Ryder. That's all you really needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that they got some more people on there, it just added to it to a great cast. And but I enjoyed it. I loved it. Yeah.
Plus, I love Beetlejuice cosplay. You mentioned your guy who does
yeah.
it. Plus, at the conventions, all the Beetlejuice people walking around. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I can't wait for this next one coming up.
Great aesthetic.
Yeah.
All right, then. So we're gonna wrap it up kind of soon. But I also, like I said, I wanted to talk about growing up because you said you grew up in the '70s, right? Or '80s.
Yeah.
So growing up, like I said, I was exposed to the horror at a young age. We had stuff like
growing
the
up, like I
Simpsons,
said,
the
I was
Treehouse of
exposed to
Horror
the horror at
and
a
stuff
young
like
age.
that.
But
So
we had
mentioned
stuff like The Simpsons, the
Saw,
Treehouse
your
of
daughter, that's your
Horror,
one thing,
and stuff like that.
All
So
the
you
classics,
mentioned
right? You mentioned Freddy,
Saw,
Jason,
your
and then a lot
daughter,
of B
that's your one
movies.
thing. All the classics, right? You mentioned Freddy,
Yeah.
Jason, and then a
What
lot
is
of B
your
movies.
go-to genre?
Genre.
What is your
I like
go-to
zombies.
genre?
Yeah, I like zombies, of course. Lately it's just been Saw, because I know they just had the 30th or 20th, I can't remember, anniversary of, but it's on HBO Max, so they have all of them on there. So I started just watching it from the beginning. I'm on the third one right now. The third one's my favorite. I think that one and the first one are my favorite ones. I usually go to Nightmare on Elm Street. Dream Warriors is one of my favorite ones. The original Halloween, and maybe the 2018 Halloween as well. The last Halloween I didn't really like. I know.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people didn't like it. Yeah, I get it. But but I like Michael Myers in general, so I'll go to the original one and watch that one. It's just classically done well. I like all the
comfort too.
movies.
That music. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I like Scream. More of those ones. But I do like discovering like a gem. There's one called Ghost Story, I think, or something like that. It's with Ben Affleck's brother, Casey Affleck. That one was a piece of art. If you haven't seen that one, I think it's called Ghost Story. It's so good. I loved it. It's one of the newer movies I've seen that's got to do with a ghost story, and it's got to do with seeing it through the ghost eyes.
Oh,
so you usually see it on the human side, but you're kind of seeing it now. Somebody that doesn't see you, but you're dead, and you're just wandering around, and you don't know what's going on. You have to get to the other side, and you don't know how. You're stuck in this world, and you're seeing your spouse going through life, being sad, being happy, breakups, kids growing up. And it was just a different perspective, and I just thought it was artistically done well. So that was one of the more newer ones that I really enjoyed.
Okay. No, like, yeah. All right, then. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you mentioned comedy too. Comedy you always go to,
Oh yeah.
80s comedy.
You people probably laugh that I watched Three's Company on repeat the whole day.
Oh,
all week.
really?
It's
Yeah.
just
No
always
way.
on. Watch that all the time. And then I started throwing on the Love Boat recently. Like that's an old 70s show that I grew up with as well. But they have them all on Pluto TV, so they're all free.
Yeah, I love these.
But
I love
just like
Pluto.
having
I love what's it called? Tubi.
yeah, Tubi. I think it's on Tubi, but the Three's Company was on Pluto, and but yeah, they also have movies on there, like old nostalgic horror movies on there too that you can watch.
I'm here.
I think I
Okay.
lost you. Hello.
I'm actually
There you
I'm
go.
about to die myself, my camera and everything. So we're gonna wrap it up here with Raul. Is there anything you'd like to say to your listeners, people who follow your page, your fans, your friends, before we go?
Well, first I want to thank you for having me on, and I know we talked about coming on, so I thank you very much for having me on. This is fun conversation. It's fun doing the podcast, and I love doing podcasts, so it's fun. And yeah, everybody that follows me, just continue like giving me love on all the platforms, like social media. As you know, it has ups and downs. The algorithm sometimes doesn't show some of my stuff, so definitely follow my stuff because I post every day. Just so you know, if I don't post, it's because something happened in my life. That's the only time I don't post, which is very rare. So definitely, there's always stuff on there. Follow my YouTube channel and then follow my podcast, Rawl of the Dead podcast. New episodes out every Monday. And I will have newer episodes coming out in December. I'm going to work on some new episodes in the next couple of weeks. But right now, there's new episodes right now that you can listen to. And yeah, thank you again for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you so much. This is Beer with Bear with Raul. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.